YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Today, guys, we are going to prepare ourselves for the Fire Kings for next week. And that's why we are going to do this showcase. So first and foremost, we are going to talk about the cards or the core cards for the deck. The version for a deck list that you can use with the Snake Eyes. And lastly, with a version with no Snake Eyes. So typically a pure version for Fire Kings. And maybe in the last part of the showcase, we will not go with the gameplay showcase. But instead, we are just going to do some combos with the deck just to give you an insight on how this deck really works. And I did my research with some other contents out there that uses this deck to its fullest. So without further ado, let's talk about the core cards. Alright guys, so here we are with a core list for the Fire Kings. So every Fire King name I added into this list except for the ones that we don't use for the deck. We also added the XZ monster and the one from the OCG. Now this card hasn't been released in the TCG yet, and I'm not sure if Master Duel would add this one by next week. We'll talk about that in a bit. First and foremost, we're going to talk about the boss monster, which is the retrained version of the Garunix, which is Sacred Fire King Garunix. Now, if a fire monster is destroyed by battle or by card effect, and this card is in your graveyard or your hand, you can special summon this card. And once this card is normal or special summoned to the field, you can pop one fire beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster from your hand, deck, or face up in the field. A really good effect as well to trigger the effects of your other Fire King monsters and gain the attack of that monster specifically. So it's a really good beatdown as well on the field. With the number of copies for this monster, you can now use 2 copies of this. I've seen some versions where people are just running 1 copy, and that is because they still have Snake Eye Ash on 3 copies. It is a really powerful card, by the way. So another retrained version from the original Kirin card. So during the main phase, if this card is in your hand, you can destroy one other fire monster from your hand or face up on the field. So if ever your level 1 fire monster is going to be targeted for an effect vader or an imperm, destroy that fire monster to disjoint the effect. Now, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can spell summon one Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard. And then, you can pop 1 card. So a non-target pop as well with this effect. And it is a level 8 monster that you can use with the continuous spell later on. Oh yeah, with the number of copies, you basically need 3 copies of this max on a pure version or a Snake Eyes version. For our next card, we have here Fire King Avatar Arvata. Typical builds that I've seen by far, they are just running 1 copy of this. A really good card effect as well. When a monster effect is activated, you can negate the activation and then you can pop 1 fire monster from your hand or face up on the field. And then if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 fire beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster from your graveyard and then special summon it. Although its effects are negated and it will be destroyed in the end phase, so that's pretty good. For our next card, we have here a copy of Fire King Avatar Barong. So if a face of Fire King monster you control is destroyed by card effects, you can spell summon this card from your hand. Once per turn during the standby phase after this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, add 1 Fire King card from your deck to your hand, which your typical targets for this is a copy of Kirin if ever you're gonna pop this one with the effect of the Sacred Fire. Numbers for this in your deck, whether you're running pure or with the Snake Eyes, is 1 copy, I guess, or 0 to 1 copy depending on your build. But I do believe running 1 copy of this is really insane because you can search out a copy of Kirin afterwards. So that is Barong for you. Let's go to our next card, which is a copy of Fire King Avatar Rangbali. Now, since the Avatar Arvata is a monster negate, the Rangbali is a spell and trap card negate. Still works the same way as well. If you want to run this, I think it's okay though. But maybe just run with 1 copy of this, whether you're running pure or with the Snake Eyes. Then we have the new OCG card, the Volcanics. So this works like the field spell. If this card is normal summoned or special summoned, you can destroy 1 other fire monster from your hand or face up on the field. And if you do, add 1 fire beast, beast warrior, or wing beast monster from your deck to your hand. If you want to use this effect to the fullest, you might have to run the original Fire King Garunix, which is this one here. So if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can spell summon 1 Fire King High Avatar Garunix from your deck in defense position. Now the reason for this is if ever you have a copy of Sanctuary on the field, you have 2 level 8s on the field that you can go into a copy of your Garunix Eternity, which is a really good board wipe. But yeah, like I said, it's an okay card. Number of copies, if ever this will be in the game, guessing 1 to 2 copies if you're running pure. Snake Eyes, I don't really think that this will be a really good effect for Snake Eyes. But yeah, that is your Volcanics. Next up, we'll have a copy of your Fire King Ponix. I forgot the third copy of this. So if a Fire Monster is destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can spell summon this card from your hand. So if this card is normal or spell summon, you can add one Fire King spell and trap card from your deck to your hand. So your typical targets for this, or your basic targets for this, is your Sanctuary, because Sanctuary will get you into a copy of your Fire King Island. But if in case you have already a copy of this, you can go with a copy of Fire King Skyburn as a follow-up for next turn. And by the way, if this card is destroyed and sent to the graveyard, by the next standby phase, you can gain access to this card from your graveyard to your hand. The recursion for this effect is still amazing though. Oh yeah, with regards to the number of copies for this, since like I said, Snake Eye Ash is on 1 copy now, you can run a third copy of this. I've seen some people running with 2. It's still okay though, but I don't recommend running with 1 copy. For our next card, we have here Circle of the Fire Kings. It's rare that people are using this one. Maybe 0 to 1 copies, depending on your build. But target 1 fire monster that you control and fire 1 fire monster in your graveyard. Destroy that monster on the field. And if you do, spell summon the one that is in your graveyard. Basic monster reborn, but the pop itself would be a really good synergy with the Fire Kings. Fire King Skyburn, you target 1 equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls, destroy them. If a Fire King card you control would be destroyed by card effects, you can banish this card from your graveyard instead. So another good protection if you don't want your Fire King monsters to be popped. But basically you need like 0 to 1 copies of this in your build as a pure or maybe with the Snake Eyes version. So that is Skyburn. For our next card, we have here Fire King Sanctuary. With regards to the number of copies, you can run 2 to 3, minimum of 2 if you're running a Snake Eyes version or a pure. And if you're running a pure version, you can run with 3 copies. It's still perfectly fine. You can gain access to your island easily. When this card is activated, you can place 1 Fire King Island from your deck face up on your field zone. So once per turn, if a card in your field zone would be destroyed by card effect, you can destroy 1 fire monster in your hand or face up on the field instead. If your opponent spell summons a monster, you can immediately, like I said earlier, exi summon into 1 fire exi monster using the Fire King monsters you control. A really good card to go into your Garonix Eternity. So that is your Sanctuary. And last card that we will be using for this deck is the Fire King Island. So if this card in the field zone is sent to the graveyard or banished, destroy all monsters you control. I'm pretty sure people are going to run Cosmic Cyclones once Fire Kings are going to be released. During your main phase, you can destroy 1 monster in your hand or field, and if you do, add 1 Fire King monster from your deck to your hand. Really good effect. If you control no monster, you can special summon 1 Fire Wing Beast monster from your hand. If you have the Garunix, special summon the Garunix to the field, and then you can pop 1 card from your deck. Now with regards to the number of copies, in the pure version, you can run 3 copies of this, but I think going with 2, same with the Sanctuary, is still okay. In the Snake Eyes version, going with 2 is your max for this card. So that is your main deck, boys and girls. Let's go to our extra deck, which is we only have 1, the Garonix Eternity. So if this card is exi summoned, you can destroy all other monsters on the field. That includes yours. You can detach 1 material from this card. It can target 1 spell and trap card and then pop it and gain a 500 attack to its attack. And if this card is destroyed while it has a material, you can spell summon 1 Fire King monster from your graveyard up to the number of materials this card had. So that is your Garonix Eternity. The rest of the Garonix cards would have been playable beforehand, but nowadays, it's kind of hard for them. And with that, that is our core list for the Fire Kings. Let's go to our Master Duel version with the Fire Kings Snake Eyes and its pure version. Okay, so here we are with the Master Duel version for the deck. This is Fire King and Snake Eyes. So as you might see here, we are running 1 copy of Ash. By the update is going to be in. Instead of like copies of Ash, we need a 2nd copy of Poplar. So we are running Bonfire here. At least we have some good targets here. You have your consistency makers as well. Your Ash, your Poplar. This is typically your starter for going into your Snake Eyes and Fire King combo. Don't worry, I'll showcase to you guys the combos later on. We have the Garunix, the 1 copy, 1 Flamberge. Maybe I'll increase the number of Nibiru here because if going up against mirror matches, 2 copies of the Nibiru might be handy since you didn't need to pop them, just tribute them. But yeah, this might change once the Fire Kings is going to be released in the game by next week. Maybe I'll run with less hand traps than usual. Extra deck, you are running with every fire monster that you can actually use. Appaloos are really needed if ever you're going with the Snake Eyes and Fire King combo. You can gain access to a 3,200 Appaloosa. Maybe I'll run a second copy of Promethean Princess. We'll never know. But the extra deck is basically tight already. Maybe I'll remove a copy of Earl here. SP Little Knight, really good card. So that is your Fire King and Snake Eyes deck. Let's go towards our pure version for the deck as well. And before we go into that one, take note, Decklist is going to be in the comment section below. Alright, so let's go to our pure version. Okay guys, so here we are with the pure version for Fire Kings. Now, like I said a while ago, if we won't get a copy of Volcanics, you can remove the 2 copies of Volcanics here and the 1 copy of the original Garunix and run a second copy of Garunix, a second copy of Nibiru, and a third copy of your Sanctuary. That way it will be much easier. And of course, a really good counter for a Snake Eyes and Fire King version as well. If you're going up against mirror matches, Nibiru is practically useful. Extra deck, we have Dingirso as well as a removal without the pop. Underworld Goddess as well because you spam the board with this deck. And I think that's basically it. There's no other like additional matchups here. But so far so good. That is your deck list for your Master Duel. Like I said earlier, we will not be doing the gameplay showcase, but instead we're going to be doing the combos. So without further ado, let's go to our combos. Okay guys, so here we are with the combos. So to start off, we have here Snake Eye Ash. Please disregard Ponyx on hand. I forgot to remove this one during my combo. Just treat this one as a monster from my deck, alright? So this is a 1-card combo. Since Ash is going to be hard to actually attain nowadays, maybe a copy of Bonfire would be quite different, or a copy of your Black Witch or a copy of your Wanted would be different because you need to discard a card. But regardless, you can go with Ash first here as your 1-card combo. So there we go. Ash, gain a copy of Poplar. Poplar will be summoned to the field. Gain access to the original. Link off the Poplar, I mean. And then use the Poplar in the Spell Trapper zone. For the original, spell summon the Ponyx from our deck. Ponyx will gain access to the Sanctuary. Sanctuary will get our Field Spell. Field Spell will pop the Ponyx, gain access to the Sacred Fire Garunix. And then spell summon the Garunix to the field. Since a Fire Monster was popped, use the effect of the Garunix, pop the Arvata from our deck. Arvata will spell summon the Ponyx. We use the effect of Ash here. Go into a copy of Flamberge, and then we'll link off the 3 cards on the field into a copy of Promethean Princess, leaving the Flamberge on the field. Spell summon of Arvata from our graveyard, and then link off into a Sunlight Wolf from our Promethean and Flamberge. Use the effect of Flamberge, spell summon the Ponyx and the Poplar, and then we go into a copy of IP Masquerena next. So since Monster was summoned in the arrow that Sunlight Wolf is pointing to, we can gain access to our Flamberge for our opponent's turn. At this point, we end our turn here, and in hindsight, this might not be a really strong deck, but we have 1 interaction from our IP Masquerena, our Sunlight Wolf, if ever we summon a monster there, and a copy of our Monster Negate, which is Arvata. So let's start here. And please take note, Cosmic Cyclone is very detrimental for this deck if ever they will pop the field spell. So our guy is going to use his monster effect. We'll use the effect of Arvata, popping our Flamberge, spell summoning our 2 cards from our graveyard, which is the Garunix and the 2 level 1s. So there we go, and Garunix will be there. So Garunix will trigger the effects. So chain linking here is important. So we can go Ponyx first, gain access to the follow-up for next turn. Go into a copy of Garunix, gaining access to 1 more card to the graveyard, and then popping its effect. You can go with another Fire King monster to spell summon another Fire King monster from our graveyard. And then last chain, we go into a copy of IP Masquerena, going into a copy of either SP Little Knight, or if you want more space in your main monster zone, you can go into a copy of Appaloosa, which what we'll do. Appaloosa there, popping a copy of Kirin. Kirin will use its effect. Spell summon 1 monster there. And then Sunlight Wolf will use the effect, gaining access to the Kirin on hand. So summoning the monster there and using the Kirin's effect to pop 1 card. And then we still have the effect of Kirin on hand, which is pretty good. So that is it, our board. So that is our first combo. Let's go to our next combo with the Snake Eyes. Okay, for combo number 2, I talked about earlier, if you have a copy of Wanted or a copy of Black Witch, you just need 1 discard for this. So we go first with a copy of Black Witch here. dumping one to the graveyard, gaining access to the original, and then use the effect of original here to gain access to our Ash. Much better if we have a copy of Wanted here so that we can have an additional draw during our turn. So we go an Ash. Now instead of Poplar, we'll gain access to the Ponyx. Ponyx will be on the field. Gaining access to the Sanctuary. Sanctuary will be activated, gain access to the field spell. Field spell will pop the Ponyx. Ponyx will get the field spell gain access to the Garunix. Garunix will then be spell summoned, popping our card in our deck, which is the Barong. And with a copy of Ash and the continuous spell, we go into a copy of Flamberge. And then we go into a copy of Sunlight Wolf, using the effect of Flamberge, spell summon 2 level 1s, and then with the Sunlight Wolf, gaining access to our Flamberge on our hand. We can use this during our opponent's turn. And with the 2 level 1s, we go into a copy of Masquerena. Now, like the other combo we had, it is still underwhelming, but it usually works well during your opponent's turn. So, let's start. So, on the next standby phase, we'll gain access to a copy of Kirin on hand. And this is really good though. This is one interaction that you'll basically need. So, Kirin on hand. We can pop the Flamberge here and spell summon the monsters and then activate the effect of Garunix in their graveyard. So there we go. Kirin will be spell summoned, popping our Flamberge. And then 2 effects will activate. The Flamberge and the Garunix. So here, Chainlink 1, go for Ponyx here. Chainlink 2, if you have a copy of Poplar, then go for it. But if not, just go with a copy of the Ponyx. Then go into a copy of your Garunix. And then lastly, into a copy of IP Masquerena. There you go. So Appaloosa on the field, a 4 material Appaloosa. That's really nice. And we'll pop a copy of Arvata in our deck. Use the effect of Arvata here. Arvata, pop spell summoning a monster to the field. Sunlight Wolf will gain access to our Kirin for in case our monster is going to be targeted for effect, we can just pop them. So the reason we're going to summon Barong here is because during our standby phase on the next turn, we can gain access to 1 more card. So that is our Snake Eyes and Fire Kings combo. Let's go to our pure version. In case you get a Wanted here with our build, this is what we'll do. You need 1 discard for this. So go for Wanted, gain access to Black Witch. Black Witch will be spell summoned to the field, dumping the other card on hand. If this was like the Ponyx, you can instantly go into this combo regardless. So go for original, special summon the Ponyx to the field. Ponyx will use the effect, gain access to the Sanctuary. Sanctuary will gain access to the field spell. Pop the Ponyx, and we got the copy of Garunix here. Garunix will be spell summoned to the field. Now, since we are using the version where we have the Volcanics, in case we don't have the Volcanics, you can pop a copy of Barong still and gain access to the Kirin. The reason for that, since we don't have a Flamberge here, Ponyx is going to be coming back to our hand during the next standby phase because it was popped. So this is still applicable for us. So with this, we popped up Volcanics, special summon the level 8 brick, and that is the 2 monsters that we'll basically need in case our opponent is going to summon or special summon a monster. Standby phase, we gain access to that one here. Now in case that was the Barong that we sent to the graveyard or popped to the graveyard, we can gain access to the Kirin, which is also a level 8 monster. So this still works the same way. So our opponent, we just wait for our opponent to special summon the monster and can use the continuous spell, pop the cards. That's it. Simple as it is. There's not much to it for this deck as a pure version. So what are your thoughts with the Fire case? Hopefully this might be interesting for you guys, and hopefully you might learn from this combo as well. So prepare yourselves, prepare your wallets for the next week. And that is it for today, guys. Keep safe, good luck. If you like this kind of content, like and subscribe. I'll see you guys in the next video. Goodbye.